I've got my little book and I'm reading my little things about little dreams and little dooms to put upon the different rooms.
Greetings, programs. Your old buddy Ingrid Bernal here. Hankering for an ale, coming back at you once again with another awesome episode of Drunken and Dragons. Getting a little twitchy. Been indoors quite a bit. But being indoors gives you time to think about room design, and that's what I've been doing. And all I can come up with is a bunch of bushes. So that's what this room design is all about. It's titled Ambushes. Now, does that mean that it's multiple ambushes? Or is it an ambush being staged from the bushes? Well, pull up a thicket and find out, because we're about to get into It's another episode of Room Design, and we're going to get into something that may seem simple on paper right now, but it's not. Surprise, surprise, surprise. This next room design is called Ambushes, and it's designed to teach your players about using cover. Or in the case of this particular room design, being used cover against, having cover used against you, which is how things are going to start, and then it's going to escalate from there. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Now, this encounter can be used anywhere that you have travel going on, right? Everybody's always talking about, like, they're traveling between this, that, and the other thing in some campaign. Everybody's wanting cool travel rules, or like wilderness, overland travel rules, or systems, or mechanics. I'd rather just run a montage with like some classic rock and get the players where they're going. But if you want to insert an encounter into travel, especially wilderness travel, this one's going to work for you. And the reasons to insert combat or an encounter into wilderness travel can be quite varied. It can be a sort of a little bit of a punishment in a way for players being too hasty or taking a shortcut. It can also be a mechanism that you need to use to reveal a clue, or to reinforce a villain, or to push players in a direction that they're sort of wanting to go. They're traveling, or perhaps they are approaching, which is a cooler version of traveling. Maybe they're approaching this castle they need to go toward, or this secret valley. And on the approach, you feel like it's sort of a lag in the excitement. You need to fill that lag in with this encounter. So enough preamble. Here's what goes on in ambushes. The map is always a great way to get started, like seeing what I'm thinking. Let's get the map. Damn it, I always point in the wrong side of the damn screen. Pow! There's our map. It's a simple little blob room. And as the players enter, they are sprung upon by foes. They are sprung upon in this little clearing in the woods, and behind them a huge thicket drops from the trees like on ropes, like a big thorny thicket. And in front of them along the trail, another one. So they're closed in, right? This is classic trap theory stuff. We're luring them in with their need to travel. We're confining them with this sort of trap that has been set up to prey upon travelers. And then we're going to spring, right? Those are the 3 steps of all good traps. We're going to spring. And in this case, they're going to be sprung upon by all these archers who are hiding in the bushes, in the thickets around this clearing. You can imagine these shadowy, thick masses of leafy, thorny bushes. And then there's a moment of pause, and they're like, oh, this can't be good. And then a bunch of arrows come flying out of the bushes, and everybody needs to jump. Oh God, there's one in my neck, like right in the first round. You know the bard's going to get hit in the neck in the first round. You're not going to worry about a bunch of attack rolls for everybody hiding in the bushes. You're just going to roll how many arrows go flying, and you're going to do this every round. Maybe even like 2d20 arrows, or depending on how gnarly you want to make this, maybe it's d12 arrows. Or a way to get a more mean level of arrows would be like d6 plus 4 arrows. So that way you don't get extremely low amounts of arrows, which could be somewhat hard to believe in this attack. It's like, okay, everybody, ambush. But Carl, only you shoot an arrow. So you can find the balance of how many arrows come flying in. They come flying in. Players basically just need to make a save to duck or to roll or to get behind their shield or something. And you can make it a half damage on that, since there's no real cover in this clearing. And then just sort of roll your damage. And maybe you just do arrow times d4 is your damage. Yes, it's that brutal. So you got 12 arrows coming in. You have potentially 48 damage happening right there. This is just being shredded by these things. But we need that peril to be high so that players are forced to work this room design rather than just sort of take it. If they can just take the punishment, then the room design isn't going to work. They'll just be like, ha ha ha, I am Pincushion of Garglefeld, and I fear no arrow in this land. Anyways, the arrows are flying in, and now we get to our mechanic. It's very hard to destroy bushes. Like boulders can be shattered. Wood can be smashed. But a thicket is something that is extremely difficult to destroy. Even when you hack it up or chop at it, you still have a big pile of thicket. Believe me, I have had this problem in my backyard before. You trim a bunch of branches off your tree, and it's not like you destroyed it. You just have a ground tree now with this huge pile of branches. And this is similar with thickets. The only way to rout these archers is to deny them their cover. It's not like it's hard to attack these guys when they're in their thickets. You cannot. You can't see them in there. You can't reach in there. You can't get to them. You could fire blindly with an arrow, and maybe on a nat 20, you hear like a ah inside the thicket. But remember, we're not actually counting how many archers there are. You're not going to worry if there are 5 hiding in the bushes or 15. They have no numeric reality until they're routed, and that's very important. So the players are going to need to find a way to A, run for their lives, just plain escape, or B, destroy the thickets that are surrounding this space to expose or rout the archers. The obvious answer here is probably going to be fire, is you can burn a thicket out to where it disappears. But even using fire, anyone who has done a bunch of yard work knows, you don't just whoosh and a thicket is gone. It doesn't work that way. It takes time. So there's going to be a time limit on how quickly the group can destroy these thickets to expose the archers. And once the archers are exposed, they basically just run into the woods. And you could say, at that point, you see 3 of them, like run off. You can give them numeric reality. And if they want to chase them down and brutally destroy them, then they can. But they've routed them. Now is where players are going to be faced with a lot of different possible outcomes. Let's say they destroy one of these cover thickets. They might have an escape route through the thicker part of the woods, where they go through that hole to run for their lives. Now, anytime players choose escape as a room solution, you have done your job well. Fear, remember, is the product that you vend as a dungeon master. So they have bought your product from your vending machine. You are sold out, and they are running for their lives. So let them. If escape is their only hope, don't be mean about it. Let them find that release valve and run for it. Another thing is they might realize that a certain type of fire, like an accelerant fire, burns these thickets out quickly, and they can rout the guys quickly, and they don't have to flee. They can beat these guys. They can beat these archers. Or maybe they want to capture one to find out who they are and who sent them or why they're attacking the players. Damage just fountains out of cover until you find a way to destroy the cover. And it's critical that you're using thickets here because they're so difficult to destroy. So look out, shrubbery. That should be where you're putting players' heads as they move forward in your campaign. You should be able to just plant some big thickets wherever you want during their adventures, and they should feel a chill of fear go down their spine. This is what I call ambushes. And it's a way to begin to play with cover that isn't just like, how much of me is concealed from my enemies, right? Okay, so let's talk about this archer force and making them kind of interesting. Now, I don't think that the average humanoid hiding in the woods is very interesting. I think something that could be more interesting is maybe wild men who wear like animal heads. Okay, there are these wild men who wear animal heads, and they've picked one of the players out, and they want to kill the rest and take that player. So this can put a spin on things. Another idea is that the wild men with the animal heads they think like predators, and so they're always going to go for your weaker, less defended characters in your group. Now, why is this interesting? If out of the bushes is just flying a volley of arrows every round, and the wild men are targeting the weakest in your group, the least armored, or even the one with the less hit points. If there's like visible wounds on somebody, that's who they're going to target. This presents yet another interesting challenge to players because they need to find a way to get their armored character to draw fire. This is the classic challenge of so-called tanking. So the enemy wants to kill the unarmored characters, and your armored characters need to find a way to stop that, to absorb or draw the fire. This can be through movement, through positioning, through yelling, through taunting, or the use of special abilities. But it puts that spin on the encounter. Okay, now we're going to add one final twist to make things get a little wild. So every round, the thickets are just firing arrows out, right? It's like, how do we get out of here? We've wasted another round screwing around. More of them come in, and they're targeting the wizard. They're targeting the healer. I've got to get the arrows to fire at me. I'm the frickin' tank, damn it. Ah! Ching, 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 ching. Ah, shield of missile blocking. Yeah! We need to mix this up. So it's if every round the thickets are all firing, every timer, meaning D4 rounds that you're going to roll, every timer, one of the wild men finally rigs up a little explosive arrow and draws it and fires it into the clearing. This is really going to put a timer on your encounter. And not just a can you make it to the end of encounter, which is just kind of like your grand timer here, but there's going to be pulses of intensity. And since you're rolling D4 for how often an explosive arrow hits, this pulse is going to have a variable feel of rhythm. Sometimes it's going to be a long time between explosive arrows. Other times, when the players are unfortunate, it's going to be a very short amount of time, and then the next explosion hits. We've got to get out of this clearing. That's what they should be thinking. We've got to get out of here. Or pour oil all over the bushes and let's just blaze this sucker up and send them running, something. But I wouldn't be surprised to see this overall process of understanding, attacking, defending, losing somebody, recovering, tanking, to be at least 5 rounds of play. And probably something more like in the realm of 9 to 12. Because remember, they're trapped in here. And getting through these big thicket blockers that they put over the trail is no easier than destroying the thickets that conceal the archers. How hard really is it to destroy a thicket? Well, give it some hit points. Give it 30 hit points. But 30 hit points that cannot be done by bladed weapons, or especially blunt weapons, or ranged weapons. It can only be done by AoE type effects like fire. What else can even destroy a thicket? I don't know. Something like a spell like Storm of Knives. Maybe a smashing force could crush down the thicket. So maybe you could create a giant mass of stone that sort of crushes the thicket flat. And then the guys are exposed because they have to jump out to get out of the way of the stone. This is one place where now players can come up with a zillion different things. The key is that your concept is simple and the outcomes are many. That is my idea for a room design called Ambushes. It teaches your players a lot of new behaviors like tanking, destroying enemy cover, and it also reinforces the classic 3 steps of all trap design. Give them a reason to be there, confine them, and spring the threat, and then watch the fun unfold. I hope that this encounter is useful for you guys in your game. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Everybody, good luck out there. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep it real, never steal. You're always going to get yourself a good deal. Take care of your neighbor. And let's just keep on getting through this together, all right? So I'll see you guys on the internet. I'm going to get out of here. That's all I got. Oh, my God. Dungeon Ring? I love that. Whoa. Stop. Whoa. Oh, good. Thicket. 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 Thicket.